morning, so I'm working in an office here.
Excellent. Do you have a light that you could shine on you just to get more light?
Yeah, maybe just a sec. Yeah, I do. Oh, it's not my office, it's my mom's. So just a sec, I have to figure it out. Hey, hang on. Is that better?
A little bit, not.
Is it too much light over here? Because the curtains are open.
I wouldn't say too much. I would say that you need more light, if anything.
Okay. I don't know. Let's see. That doesn't work. Everything's unplugged, Kate. Trying to think how I plug this other one in. Just, I don't know. Okay, hold on. Here. Oh, she took the light bulb out of this. Okay, just a sec. Okay, let's try this. And I can move. Is that better?
That's a bit better if you could shine it a bit like right in front of your face. Then, if you could.
There's just not that many, because it's like a home office, and so it's not my home office. Is that any better?
That's a lot better.
Okay.
Yeah, I just do a lot of Zoom calls, and when the person's dark, I want to see your face.
Sure.
How you doing?
Awesome. I made some good progress. This, I'm sure you've touched in with Lori a little bit. So we kind of are finding our roles a little bit more and kind of figured out more the financial business side of things, which I feel better about. So we all everyone's starting equal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not an easy thing to do, is it?
No, but you got to remember it's business, right? And I know Lori and Sylvia had started something, and I have a lot of experience with corporate side of things and shareholders and everything like that. So it's good. The big thing, I love Lori, but it's making sure we stay on track to make it reproducible. So just each of us finding our role to do that.
Right. Well, I think with all these tools, you're not going to have a problem with that. That's not going to be the problem.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited.
So this is session 1 of Design Your Ideal Job. And as you see, it's going to be recorded. And it's a transparent process, meaning that both of us can use this in the future to show people this is how we did it. And whatever I train you in, you can train other people in, and you can just watch the lineage of whatever knowledge is passed on.
Awesome. I have my Surface here because I find I remember a bit better if I make a note about something.
Sure.
My brain works a lot better that way for me.
And just to give a little bit of context, Kristi is part of 4 women in Yorkton that have agreed to start a shared knowledge community. And so they are the first active team, because there's going to be many teams attempting to create a shared knowledge community. I do not think, I with everything I've gone through so far, I've realized one thing, and that's whatever I think is going to happen is not going to happen, but you can kind of aim at the next step. You can somehow sort of go to the next thing, and then we can both stop and look at each other and go, did that work? Is that okay? Can we go on? Right?
Yes. Totally.
A lot of times we have these big plans, or I have big plans, and it's a little bit far beyond where most people want to go. And so I just have to tell you that I have to gauge. So right now, like, this is custom design between you and I, and like, we don't know each other, right? Like, I've got like a long history with Lori, and you and I have just met, and we've just chatted. We haven't had this one-on-one time, so this is very different, right?
Totally.
So first question, just to get things kind of started, do I have your permission as a coach to be a communication coach?
Yes, absolutely.
And as a facilitator, as a coach, you need that permission, because in terms of communicating as a coach, it's very different than regular life, and it's regularly different from regular business, because everything's communicating, right? There isn't anything we're doing that doesn't have community. And if I'm there as a coach to give feedback or to help, sometimes you're bringing stuff up that the other person may not either want to acknowledge or know exists. And so
Yeah, I've worked with business coaches when we had our restaurant, and they were a huge part of my process. So I really value that, because they help you see things more objectively, and it's not personal, it's business. So how can you be the most effective
right
in what you're doing? And I love that. I always search that out.
Okay, good. Because I find that over time, like I have a unique, let's say, style and a unique sort of structure. So sometimes when you're telling somebody, you go, do you know you do this as a pattern or a habit? That person, depending on their level of identity with that habit, or depending on their level of identity with themselves, it can be quite a shock.
And for me, I'm very much, if I can see a situation when it happened, that I can look at how I can modify, like correct my behavior next time so I can be more effective. So I live in that space quite a bit, and I'm pretty direct to the point. So I don't carry stuff around. I'd rather, I have the perspective, you either say it to someone because you need to find a solution, or you accept how it is and you let go what's bothering you about it.
Okay. Okay.
So
Well, it's anyway, I just want to acknowledge it. It's a big thing.
yes,
And
totally.
that what you four women are doing is a large thing. It's very important to me. It's a very high priority, and so it's there's a lot of context coming into this, a lot of momentum, and sometimes I sort of overstep my boundaries by sort of maybe imposing a little too much either intensity or a little too much of the vision into a place where you may not want to be.
Sure.
So that would be like a conversational killer. That would be like overwhelm plus intensity gap.
And intensity doesn't bother me. I can manage intensity. I'm so visual that often if someone's saying something and I can't quite get it, I either need to hear it differently, or I need to close my eyes so I can see what they're talking about. Like often I'll be in conversations with other friends and they'll switch gears and they'll say, okay, hold on just a second. I just need to get my brain to what we're talking about so that I can actually focus in on it and absorb it.
Okay. So maybe if you could give me a little bit about other things about how you learn, like tips that would help me to understand, your preferred styles.
Yeah, so I learn by doing. So for me, it's really hard if you just handed me a document and said, go do this. I have the ability to go do it. I would much rather do it with someone with me who guides me through the steps, and then I pick it up very quickly and we'll just run with it and do it. I love accountability, because for me, if I make a commitment to do something to somebody else, it's going to get done. And I will follow through, no problem, and I'll make that happen. So for me, I work better if I'm learning a new skill or embracing something, for them to give me some practical ways to practice it over the next week. And then we come back and say, hey, how did that work? What happened with this? I work really well in that capacity.
Okay, that's good to know. Good to know at the get-go to understand. What about how much do you like abstract thinking and patterns?
Give me an example of something you would classify as abstract.
Well, like maps, like conceptual maps.
I'm really good. I'm a faith-based person. So for me, the abstract is something that I have no issue with. Though, because I'm a person of action, in my mind, if I'm like, I would get really frustrated if the four ladies sat around only ever talking about ideas and nothing ever happened. So there needs to be the foundation, which is mapping and talking and abstract. But if we're actually moving forward, what does that look like? So because I need to understand things. So I'm that kid that if you said the stove when I was little, the stove is hot, don't touch it. Well, what do you mean it's hot? Why is it hot? What's going to happen if I touch it? I'd sooner just touch it, know the stove was hot, and then I understand. I never did well when someone says, you can't do this, don't do that. Versus, you know what? We don't do it this way because here's what we've experienced.
Okay. Did you ever play basketball?
Yeah.
Did you ever play in a team?
Oh, yeah.
So you know what a 1-3-1 offense is?
Remind me, because I was a competitive synchronized swimmer, so basketball went by the wayside. So remind me of the 1-3.
Okay, so basically you got 5 people on the court.
Yeah.
You got a point guard at the front, so that's the one. And at the back, you've got the center, that's the one. And then the 3, well, it depends on where people go. The center might be in the actual center, and then you'd have a guard and a forward kind of thing.
Yeah.
So basically it's a map, conceptual map, which the coach will draw the lines on the map saying you go here, right? And you do plays based upon formations.
Yes.
Right? So a conceptual map can be used by a team that is in your mind that tells you your position and what you're going to do in relationship to other people.
I like that. That's good for me. So I took the personality thing to figure out what number I was, and I'm an 8.
Right. And that's, I understand 8s very well. 8s, like if something is wrong in the room, the 8 will be the person who stands up and says, excuse me, that's wrong.
Yeah, and I have never read, I've done a lot of different communication style, like I've spent a lot of time in that, but I've never read something that describes me so much to a T. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, and my husband and I had an argument because I said, hey, while I'm waiting for this to get going, I'm already doing this. I could make some money doing this along the way. He's like, why are you focused on so many different things? And I'm like, but to me, I don't see it that way. I like to be purposeful and busy. So, I always have lots of things on the go, and it's about getting it done. It's the building of it, right? Like, you want something done? I'll help you with it. You want to, like, I would go crazy if all I ever did was sit and theorize. That's not where I thrive. You could theorize about stuff. Tell me, because what happens for me is if you give me a situation or something, I've already seen the 6 different possibilities. I've already calculated which one's going to make the most sense. So let's just go get it done. My frustration comes, and I've learned to adapt that because of communication and personality style. So it doesn't bug me anymore to spend the time with people getting there and doing that. It used to, because it was like, how come you don't get it? I just see it.
So do you see this map behind me?
Yes.
Have you seen this before?
I don't think so.
Okay. So there's 4 main words, right? Events, cycles, conversations, and actions. If you were going to choose one of those words to be the word that you were in charge of, what would it be?
Action.
Yes. And you
But
see
when Lori kind of brought this up, the promoter, the designer, and I can't see the under your shoulder for element, organizer, yeah, and then the builder, yeah, for sure. And she said, so Kristi, which one do you think we all are? And I'm like, well, I know I'm the builder, and I know you're the promoter, Lori, and Carrie would be the designer, and Sylvia's the organizer. And I'm like, that's perfect, because I have the ability to do what Sylvia does in the organizing. And often I found when you're an action person, people often put the organizational stuff under you because you get stuff done. I can do it. I don't love it. Right. When I look at what Sylvia does, and I think, I love that it's needed. And I'm so grateful that that is what you do.
Right. So as a map then, because the thing is, I'm going to drive you crazy, right? I mean, I'm coming in with a conceptual mapping system to reorganize your mind. So for an action person, I know this is like, it's like we're walking down a trail and I have the map and we're walking along and I keep showing you this map, but it's a different map than the trail. And you're going, stop showing me the map. I'm just walking. Stop showing me. Like, the focus of attention is different, right? So and this is not just true for you. This is true for everybody in a sense of, if you're trying to create a new internal thinking system that becomes a thinking system that you're using, and a thinking system that the team is using, and that the thinking system that everyone's using in the shared knowledge community, you're basically saying to some degree, your thinking is wrong and this thinking is right, which is the worst thing you can do to any human being, right? Like, no human being wants that. They go, no, I think right. I'm fine with how I think. So
Yeah,
this is
for sure.
this is part of this whole experience. Excuse me, I just got to close the door. Is it's like teaching someone who's been using Windows Linux.
Or Google, like you're teaching someone Outlook that's now using G Suite, 100%. And it's not so much if we were walking and you kept bringing up maps or different stuff. For me, it's like, okay, we are walking to Fiji. Let's say, like I'm just saying, we're going from point A to point B. I know we're going to end up here. And so I know we have this much time to get there. And we talked about this route was going to take this much time. You want to go over here. So then for me, it's like, okay, so what are we willing to shift or adjust to make that happen?
So, okay, let's just jump straight to the chase then, because you probably already know, but in case you don't, I mean, it kind of makes sense if you want to design your ideal job to ask the question, right? Like, what is your ideal job? And go ahead, give it to me.
Oh, that is the question my whole life I've been searching for. So I can tell you the elements of my ideal job, but I never found it fit into one profession. Like that is where I've struggled my whole life. And until I started doing this consulting stuff, like, because initially I came on as a consultant with Lori to help them kind of put plans in place. This is what I love to do. I like to create clarity from chaos. Give me all your stuff, all the crap and it's not crap, but all the stuff that's floating around, that's existing, that you've thought about, you've been involved, give it all to me. Tell me, let's figure out where you all want to end up. And then I'm going to organize that stuff and move it and put a plan in place so you can get there.
Awesome. So you love doing that.
I could do, if I was if I was a person who didn't have any expenses, I would do that for free for everyone I came in contact with. So, because I love helping people be successful and I love helping people purpose.
Okay. So basically coaching, right?
And generosity, or it is coaching. It's more systematic, I would say, than coaching for people, because I don't necessarily do as much with the thinking and the feeling side of things. It's more about the strategic and the actions and the planning. So if someone were to come in and they were really struggling with their identity and their worth and stuff like that, I could help them, but I probably wouldn't be the best person to do that, because it's more focused on the tangible outcome. So it ties easier into a career or business or stuff like that. For and you need both, right? So you need someone who is working on themselves, but then also working on the external. So to me, if you know the 4 different areas on the map, so you've got the inner you, the outer you,
yeah,
you've got the inner group, and I would be more with the outer group for people. How are you in this outer group making that, and what are you doing? If I were to pick one, you'd have to, but you need all the other things in line, or the outer isn't going to make any sense.
Right. Where's so, and you've been doing this independently on your own?
This consultant,
as an independent consultant?
Sort of. So 4 or 5 years ago, I started this business idea to help the trades, and I got a logo and I came up with the name. My husband's a red seal chef and wanted to open a restaurant, so I took that and running a restaurant. We had 40 employees and 3 restaurants, and we did that for 10 years. So using that skill set in his business. Then we closed the business and I said, okay, I love the mortgage world. So that is something that's tangible that pays the bills. And it just kind of came back into my sphere with Lori, where she said, hey, you do this. I need your help. And now opportunities are popping up in this sphere. I haven't actively pursued anything, but as they're coming up, it reminds me how much I love it, and it's natural for me.
Okay. So have you ever worked on a team before of kind of
Yeah.
like coaches or like a team that's more intangible knowledge workers?
So I worked for a company called Hilberg and Burke. I was their technical coordinator and administrator. So my role was facilitating all this stuff, working with very tech people. So the people building your APIs and all those things, keeping them on track for their projects and pulling that out. But then my role was very much, how do you talk to a person who likes technology but doesn't really care how it works? So because it was a group of 20 something women, that was a company of 200 people. So I would say in that team capacity, that's how I did it.
Okay. Okay, but not like a small independent team like this, kind of like you're on right now.
No, I've never kind of, not in the same capacity, like we're each building something where we have different skill sets that we're bringing for sure. Probably I have, most of my good friends are coaches.
Okay. Um, what is the most exciting parts about what's going on right now that you see?
I love the fact that people are getting their aha moments. Like when I look at Lori and I hear the things her and Lori and Sylvia are sharing, and it's like, because I don't even know that I'm doing it in the questions I ask or the things I'm doing. But when we sit down, that they are like, man, we have moved, we spent 2 years trying to do 2 months. So I love that they feel they're making progress and there's actually things coming into action. And because we have such a dynamic, great team, this is going to be sustainable and happen. It's not just that floating, tangible idea. It's not like when you're on your own, you have to put everything on your back to make it happen. And it wears you out.
Right. And what about the idea that you like the most?
That you're helping people be authentic to themselves and really feel how they fit. Like for me, I have 3 kids, 12, 10, and 8. And my 10-year-old is very much, and it's, what do you class, you're an imaginator? No. Yes?
An
Those,
imaginator?
the 12, you've got the facilitator, the illuminator,
The originator? I mean,
the originator. So my middle son is an originator. He observes everything and he watches, then he knows, and he can get it done. So I look at my kids and I think, had I had the opportunity to experience this way of thinking and identify myself, the world would be a far more harmonic place, because it's less about competition and more about building a community to work together.
right. So in terms of your ideal client, like who are the people that you'd want to serve the most?
The one thing I've always said is it has to be people who see the need and want to make change. Because when you talk about a system like this and what we're building, if people don't see the value in it and are willing to put it into action, they're never going to see the results, because you're always fighting to convince them that there's a need for it. So they have to be aware enough to realize something's not right, they're not happy, and then, like, as far as an ideal client, I've never looked at that from my consulting side of the business. Like, I guess where I see my service fits in is, you either have an existing business that you need to make some changes to reach the next level, or you have an idea and you actually want to see it get off the ground and move forward. So it's always that transition point, right? And whether it's, because I've worked with people who need to hire another person in the organization and they don't know, like she had 2 people, communication company, knows she needs to hire someone, no idea what that person would do, what their roles would be. what that would look like. So that worked really well, you know. And then I have someone who's approached me that her business, she's single, like does everything in her business. She's had so much growth, she can't keep doing that. She's so disorganized. So I guess for me, it's like, I want to work with people who want to get organized, but actually want to make a change, right? Because it's hard to convince a disorganized person that they need organization unless they realize what they've been doing doesn't work.
Right. How many current clients do you have?
In this sphere, like 2 right now, 2 or 3, because like I say, I haven't been pushing it or pursuing it. It's just kind of surfaced up again. And so now, and this is kind of where I'm at, like I could build this solely in and of myself, but to me, I want to invest in the hub. So if I'm building this consulting and what I'm doing, it needs to happen through the hub, and the service is a service associated with the hub, because like I have finite numbers of hours. So if you want me to tell you what I would envision my ideal scenario like, so if I need to make, say, $6,000 a month, that's what I want to make, just let's say. So, and how I'm spending my time in my week, it would be that the hub is so busy with people coming through that we're training, we're managing, you know, we're helping people go through this new way of thinking and working with people. And I have clients that I work with. Okay. I could go tonight or tomorrow. It doesn't matter.
What would you prefer?
I don't care. Sorry, I'm stuck. Yeah. Sorry, my ride is asking me when I want to go into town. So we're just trying to plan. So for me, I would love to make all my money through the hub, not do mortgages anymore. I like mortgages because I help people reach their dreams. So I could do that on the side and it's tangible. But I would love to be working with like 3 or 4 big projects a month and have ongoing coaching under those projects a month that I connect them with like 4 to 6 people a week. So that's what I would love to do, because I am somebody, I love contract work and project work because I like seeing the beginning and the end and getting the stuff in the middle. I'm not somebody who wants to always be doing this project. I can do the same work with multiple different people.
Right. What do you think are your like superhero power kind of special gifts that you have that no one else has?
Nobody in the whole world.
Yeah. Or just, I mean, just like what are things that you've noticed
My-
about yourself that you're like really good?
I have very, very strong intuition. Like I will know because I know without even needing to know something. When I meet with people, I can very easily get a sense of what they're about. I have a really strong gifting to just be able to see what needs to happen and know what resources to pull into that for people. Generosity is something I would say, like, I would sooner take less money for something knowing it has a bigger impact and there's a longer term benefit than take a lot of money up front. If the work I could do could make an impact for people that changes their life, like that's huge for me. So others, sure, like it's hard sometimes to put tangible words. Like for me, I would rather make a difference than be a millionaire. If I had to choose between the two, I'd rather make a difference over making millions of dollars, because that's more important to me, that I have done good for other people in this life. I'm big on making a difference. So when I come into something short-term, long-term, when I leave, I want people to feel like they're better off because I came, because I've helped them in some way.
have you seen the map that's behind me?
Yeah, you shared it with us. Yes.
Okay, we haven't done anything with it though, right?
Nope, that's right. We have not.
Okay, we're gonna do a little action here for you.
Okay.
This is something you're gonna love because this is a way to sort of, I don't know, bridge the world between abstract and the real. But divination is a process and a tool that is strange. It is an action, and it does involve sort of abstract thinking. Okay, so a lot of my maps are an abstract map, but then they can be sort of created through a process of divination. Have you
Okay.
ever done any divination before?
Maybe under a different name, but not under that heading.
Okay, like tarot cards or any type of angel cards or anything
I
like
have done those. I have a good friend that does readings and stuff like that. But I haven't done too much on it just because it's only recently have I been okay with knowing I'm going somewhere and not knowing exactly where that is. So for me, it was hard. But recently I've embraced that. Like I'm content to be in this space now without having to map out how much and when and what. I don't need the tangibles because I know I'm existing in the space I'm meant to be.
Oh, nice. That's huge. So you did participate in the hub factors. You did participate in a unique divination using those cards. How did you like that?
Oh, I love it. And for me, I see pictures often when people put up their cards and the words that they often didn't know. I had a real insight for them on it.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Okay. So just checking in on that. Okay, so right now, do you have a piece of paper in front of you? Okay, so write down, let's say, your top 5 values on 5 pieces of paper.
Okay. Top 5 values.
And they can be sort of like, what are the values you want to learn? What are the values that you think you have? Like, it's kind of like if you were to choose 5 that were going to be your primary values, what would they be?
So would that be like the same as my core values? Like, because I know what those are.
Yeah, then just write them down.
No, I have to think back to.
Do you have any written form of value system anywhere? Like, do you actually have a map of your values in any form?
No, not written out anywhere. It kind of like I've come across it and I go back to it. So like I'm just kind of thinking when I've looked at pursuing other jobs and when I talk to my one really good friend. So freedom is huge for me. That is something that like, and so, you know, like I've got freedom, intention, integrity, purpose. And then I'm just trying to think of what my last kind of value would be.
I mean, I have here, I mean, you've got goodness and organization.
Okay. So goodness, I would look at hope. To me, like hope and goodness are very similar in my mind, but I could put goodness.
I'd say they're quite different.
Really? Like, and I do believe people have different definitions of the word.
I think hope is very much in the future, and it's very focused on like you're wanting something, you know, you're hoping something to occur, right? Hope is the amount of sort of possibility that you sort of have around it, but goodness has such a huge, I mean, it's one of the main virtues of sort of assessment in terms of good versus evil, or good versus, are you a good person or a bad person?
Fair enough. So I have goodness, freedom, purpose, and integrity. I took out intention Well, I would
Can you
use
say those again?
intention. So goodness,
Yeah.
freedom, purpose, integrity, and intention is the words that I would use. And intention instead of organization, because when I hear organization, I feel limited by that word because it means that A plus 1 plus 1 equals 2. And I don't always think that's the case because organization, people like it, I almost feel like it limits you.
Okay. Okay. So goodness, freedom, integrity, intention, and purpose. Is that what you got? Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got them on a piece of papers. Each is on, now turn them over
Okay.
and rattle them around a bit. Also, now get another piece of paper, and I don't know if you printed this map out yet, but write down this, like, draw a copy of this map.
Okay. And you want me to write the titles that are in each?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. Okay, now on another piece of paper, we're on that map, write down a central intention. Now this is looking at sort of like within your ideal job.
Okay.
What is your central intention? And quick thing, how many hours a week do you want to work?
No more than 30.
Okay.
Like between 24 and 30 is ideal for me.
Okay.
Okay. I wrote it down.
Okay, so what's your intention?
To do what I love and make a living at it.
Okay, good one. To do what I love and make a living of it. Okay, and so now what you do is you move your little pieces of paper around so you can't tell which ones, and then hold that intention in mind, and then
Okay.
place one value on top of each one of those 5 spaces.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so now turn them over one by one.
Okay, does it matter what order?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
What you got?
So in the center, I have freedom,
Nice.
which would be my core of all the things I wrote down is the most important to me.
Okay.
So under the group space is integrity.
Uh-huh.
The community space is purpose. The
Uh-huh.
one-on-one space is intention. And the personal space is goodness.
Very nice. How does that feel?
It feels really good. It feels like if I were to pick where they went, that's kind of what I would put in there.
Okay. And so how long did this process take?
5 minutes, maybe.
It's pretty simple, right? It's pretty simple, but this map is why don't you go through each space and let's say, tell me again more from your ideal job point of view, what they mean to you.
Okay. So I'm going to start with personal space. And so with goodness, what I get from that is anything that I'm kind of doing would have to resonate with some sort of goodness, meaning helping people, like because it's the personal space. So for me, anything I look at needs to have a component of goodness in it. I have to be able to do good through the work that I'm doing with people, or it feels good for me. Like, that's kind of how I interpret that word. Is that what you're meaning?
Yeah. Yeah. Goes as
Okay.
far. Yeah.
So then, and the next one is the one-on-one space with intention. And I think what kind of comes to mind for the one-on-one space with intention is whenever you get together one-on-one with someone, you have to be really intentional about how you use that time. It's not about all these side conversations. It's about being intentional about what you're trying to achieve. And then for the community space is purpose. And that is being very much aware of what is the point of why we're here and what are we doing with that. So out in the community, like, what are we hoping for? So we're really clear so you can attract people into that same space. Because if you're clear, like attracts like. And then group space is integrity. And I just see that as that's the groups I work with, and the things they have to operate with a level of integrity, which means that there can be confidential stuff. There's a mutual level of respect around people, but it's about the essence, like it's about the main priority of what it is. It's not about, bettering yourself when you're in this group space. It's about the overall purpose of what we're trying to achieve. And then for my sacred space, freedom, because that to me, where I get lost and where I feel held back is when I'm not able to do things in the way that I see they need to be done. Like having that autonomy and that ability to be flexible and work, on the projects that make sense and fill my heart. That's what I look at freedom. To not have a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 schedule for me, that drives me crazy. So if and for me, like if it's and yes, ideally if I say, okay, I want to work 24 to 30 hours, if I know that, okay, this week I need to put in 50 hours because next week is only 10, I have the freedom to make those changes because it's about what done.
What's your definition of freedom?
That's a really good question. Maybe the ability to be in control or have a say in what's happening.
Epictetus said that true freedom.
I guess because like.
Do you want to go ahead?
Pardon?
Well, Epictetus said that true freedom is looking at what you can and cannot control, and that the only thing you can actually truly control is your inner state or your attitude about what is occurring. So I'm just questioning you on that in terms of, however we define freedom or what we think is freedom is going to be different between different people. And sometimes, when you're working with other people, like that's in the sacred space. And so that's your connection to divinity. And like,
so I guess
keep going.
I guess maybe what I'm thinking is if I came to work with you, Elijah, let's say I was doing my business and you said to me, I'm only going to work with you if you format your questions this way and you do it this way and you use this, this, and this, I would go back and I would say, I don't know if that works for me because you're controlling how it happens. And so maybe like it's not, if that makes any sense.
Right. But let's say I said, okay, we got this map and you got to get the people to put the values on pieces of paper. You turn them over, you whip them around, and they get the value, and that's how you do it. I mean, I just told you what to do.
Like it's I still have control, like I still have the freedom to choose the words that I want and how things come up. So maybe it's more around when and how I do my work. I don't know, like it's interesting, because control for a long time for me was something I struggled with. This is the first time ever in my life I've been content to not have the whole plan mapped out for me. And I would have a really hard time stepping into a job that they said, like where I'm being hired as an employee. So maybe the freedom is just being my own boss.
Well, essentially it's controlling your time, right?
Yes.
So I mean, what I see about an ideal job is that everybody controls their schedule.
And that's exactly what it is for me. And knowing that when you're working with people, they are saying they're going to get something done or they're responsible for it, then that's their thing. You have that mutual level of integrity and intention. So when you come back together, you've done what you needed to do. And whether you do that at 2 a.m. or 7 p.m. or 3 p.m, it doesn't really make a difference to me as long as you've held up what you're responsible for.
Which is the integrity in the group space. The freedom at the sacred space, I'm just wondering a little bit, you're not kind of relating it, you're relating to an external, to me, it isn't touching the sacred in your languaging.
Fair. I think the thing, when I picture the word freedom, it's like someone standing on the beach with their hair is flowing everywhere and things are just going and they're just existing and allowed to exist and be there. That's what I think of. And it's really hard to put that in a tangible place with a career because people don't like allowing you to do that often, right?
Huh. Yeah, but I would say, like, freedom is a very high one for me too, and it's almost like freedom to chart your own course, right?
100. That's what it is, right? And that, yeah. So it's like you own your destiny because you're doing the things that resonate with you, and then you're able to move forward.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's behind the idea behind the shared knowledge community is you're creating an infrastructure that allows each person to design their ideal job within it. I mean, there are there's different teams, there's different, and then you decide amongst yourselves, and you go, well, I want to work on this, and I want to work on this. But if you don't have that infrastructure in place, it's very difficult, right? So we're creating this structure to assist all these independent freedom lovers to actually come together and design the lifestyle that they want. And so if you're, helping people, if you're helping people within that to do that, would that sort of fit with what you want to do?
100%. That's what you just said there is exactly it.
Okay. So it looks like we have a fit. That's great. That's great. What is there anything else you want to add in terms of, again, the sort of the ideal of what you imagine that you want to have happen? How about like in relationship to the other team members, about how you're seen and how you like work together?
No, because it's the first place that I am actually able to be myself and feel of value. So there's nothing in this team that we have. And maybe the only person that hasn't happened that much is with Carrie, just because I haven't spent as much time with her and I don't know her as well as I know Sylvia and Lori. But they all accept the fact and they all like the fact that, when we're together, I'll often put on what I call my consulting hat. So stepping back and saying, hey, let's be objective. Let's look at this. And what are the things, like the driver, so to speak, they accept that and they love that, and there's no conflict, right? And so I think it's more the fact that we're all like-minded individuals. So there is no competition amongst us, right? I'm not concerned if I'm not, there's enough space for me to say, look, I don't really feel that I can do this, but I don't necessarily see myself wanting to do this. So someone else steps up, or, hey, I love this, I want to move into this. Cool. So it's a really unusual dynamic for 4 people coming together to build something, because their skill sets really need each other to work together. But there's no competition that one's more right than somebody else, or one person needs to get more of something.
That's fantastic. I mean,
it's unusual. Like, I have never come across that when you're building something that 4 people so just naturally fit so well together. But it's like my skill set doesn't intimidate any of them, and it doesn't cause conflict. It actually brings more peace and harmony, just like Lori's ideas and visions. And for me, she sends us stuff all the time. I love this, I want to do this and this, and I'm like, okay, I'll look at it and I can pull out what she's talking about, and then I have the opportunity to bring it back to the group and say, okay, we're actually talking about this. Lori, you shared this, and this is what I saw that would work. And everyone's like, yes. So for me, I don't feel that there's anything really that needs to change, or I want to be seen differently.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, you guys are just starting, right? So I mean, it's great to have that type of synergy already, right? Like a lot of teams, it takes a lot of time to get to that point. But the idea is, if you're really in the right role with one another, that's again, that idea of the basketball team where you got the same offense in your mind, then you can make your plays and do your moves knowing that, oh, she's the guard, she's the center, she's the forward, because your roles are quite different, right? And at some point you realize, wow, I don't have to go promote anymore. And you didn't like promoting, and all of a sudden someone who's way better promoting is promoting, and then you ease off, and so you can go more into your gifts and really go into what you're really good at, right? So
Totally. And and for me, like, and I said this to Sylvia a few times, I said, I just so appreciate the things that you're doing. And I guess not that I don't appreciate Lori or Carrie, but often I would have to pick up those things, and I don't enjoy that. It needs to get done. And part of the doer is making sure things get done. So, like, really saying, I value that in you, and that is amazing that you're doing that. That's such a huge help. And even as we kind of look at some of the different components that you have to do when you're looking at structuring a business, right? You need to know what your expenses are. All those things just have to happen. And I'm like, okay, I can figure that out. I can understand the technology. And then there was marketing. And it's like, you know what, Sylvia, you're kind of doing this. I can do it, but I think you're better at it. Do you want to take that on? And she's like, sure. Right. And it was like that freedom. And I didn't feel any resentment that she's going to be taking that on. I have no concerns that she's not going to do it well. And the same, with Carrie, is like the production person, and she's always the one saying, hold on, like, we're going off here and doing this and this. And it's like, I need that, because then it helps me bring the group back to, hey guys, she's kind of our gauge at how far are we getting off. And it's like, okay, we really identified, we all agreed this is what we were going to work on today, and this is what we're going to accomplish. And I often lay that out because of the information we've talked about. And everyone says, yep, that sounds good. So then we're going on a tangent, because you have this beautiful visionary who loves so many things, Lori. And it's like, okay, I've made notes of those, so we're not going to forget about it. Carrie's like, hold on, Lori, we're back here. And I'm like, okay, here's the steps to get us back. And Sylvia's doing all that back stuff to say, yeah. And so it's just such a beautiful process. And we Carrie was sharing how she went and got a Reiki treatment, and the Reiki master was sharing how the word conflict and communication in Chinese is exactly the same word.
wow.
And So, because we were talking about money today with the investment that Lori and Sylvia put in, and how does Kaylee fit into this? And just trying to figure out, what does this look like going forward? And how do we all feel about this? And let's get it out of the way at the beginning, so no one has any animosity and no one feels like, well, I've given more, but you guys are getting what, and so we really talked that out today and came to a good resolution about it. But she said, you have to have a conflict to have communication to solve the conflict. And it was exactly that. Nobody was irritated or uptight. Nobody felt. And so that to me was just beautiful harmony. And so now I guess the only thing I would say with the team is, as we're all putting this time and we all want to make a living doing this, so making sure we're intentional and not living in the idea space, but actually being intentional about make revenue coming in and actually seeing that, so we can do what we all love to do and live the life of fulfillment and purpose.
Right. Fantastic. I have something, we're coming to the end, and
yeah.
I have a next step for you to do in
Awesome.
preparation for the next time we meet. And I would like you to fill out, a 1-week schedule of your ideal, actually like 4 1 weeks, like a 28-day schedule.
Okay.
And fill out, like, if you could do anything you wanted, and like you had your and look at the space, use the spaces. This time I'm doing one-on-one coaching, this time I'm doing group facilitation, this time I'm doing service to the community, this time's my own time, this time's my sacred time. Use the 5 spaces to plan a 28-day schedule.
Okay.
And that will be very enlightening.
I'm excited. I'm very, very excited.
Excellent. Is there anything else that you wanted to say, or any questions on your part? Didn't give you much time for questions, but
no, I don't really have questions. I just get it, what we're doing, because like literally I only saw this process about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and it just makes sense to me. It's like it was always there, but I just hadn't tapped into it. So I do a lot. If I have something that doesn't resonate or I have questions, I really seek out in myself what's bothering me about this and what do I need to get resolved, and is it a me thing or something I need to bring together?
Well, that's good. Things going well. Session number 1 just about to come to a close. So I just want to appreciate your transparency and your honesty and your participation. And I think this is a great start.
Awesome. I'm excited. Well, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to next week, and we're all going to kind of do a debrief later. And I think we're all really excited about that.
Okay.
Awesome.
See you.
Bye.